This week, Catholic priest Father Sean Goch and charity volunteer Isabel Vaughan-Spruce were both acquitted of all charges after being arrested for silently praying within an abortion censorship zone. In a video that went viral in December, Vaughan-Spruce is seen being arrested by a pair of police officers after admitting she might be praying inside her head outside an abortion clinic in Birmingham. And Father Sean was arrested for silently praying within the same censorship zone whilst holding up a sign that read, "Praying for free speech." However, the charges were dropped after both cases were judged not to meet the, quote, full code test for prosecutors. And Father Sean Goch joins me now, as well as barrister and legal counsel for ADF UK, Lorcan and Price. Father Sean, first of all, I hope I'm saying your surname right. Is it Goch or Go?
Goff.
Fantastic. Glad to hear it. Whilst this verdict is undoubtedly a huge relief for both of you, actually, and for you and Isabel, how is it that two people have been arrested and taken to court for silently praying in the 21st century Britain?
Well, it should go without saying that nobody should be criminalised for the thoughts that they've got in their own mind or for saying prayers on a public street. But sadly, this is exactly what happened to me. I'm relieved to have been had my name cleared, but the reality is that these situations could continue for other people because these censorship zones, which stop certain viewpoints and even ban prayer in certain areas, are still in place. And whilst I've been cleared, you know, the whole process that I've been through almost was a form of punishment in its own right.
Yeah. And people will ask the question, you know, prayer is not proximate. Why did you choose to go and pray where you prayed?
Well, I'm a Catholic, and for Catholic priests and for Catholics in general, places have a great significance. You know, we pray in a church, we pray in a shrine. Why? Because Jesus became God when he chose to become a human being. He entered time, he entered space. So for me, praying in places of significance is important. And for me, the greatest social justice issue of our time is abortion. Over 10 million babies have lost their lives and been lawfully killed since abortion was legalized in this country. And that's a great tragedy. And so praying at or near to the abortion center is a place of great significance for me to pray there. And it's something that's really personally important to me as well.
Well, it will come as no surprise to you that I tend to agree with you, but I'll talk to Lorcan while you fix your connection there, Father Sean. Lorcan, many people will put forward the suggestion that the councils say that these PSPOs are in place to prevent women from being harassed in and around these abortion centres. What do you say to that?
Well, harassment is already against the law in this country, and nobody is advocating for harassment or obstruction. What these PSPOs do is far broader, though, and they give local authorities the power to prohibit certain activities that are otherwise lawful, such as consensual conversations between adults in a public place. Yep. As Father Sean said, praying silently, praying in your head. Yep. Providing information and so on. And they are quite large. I think a lot of people listening may think that we're talking about directly outside the door of an abortion clinic. But, for example, the censorship zone in Birmingham extends for over 200 yards around the street and down the public thoroughfare. So that's larger than a stadium. And within that zone, then, you have an extraordinarily broad range of things that are prohibited in quite an outrageous way, really, when you think of the right to freedom of assembly, freedom of speech and freedom of religion as well.
Well, I mean, great answer, but I think you're already conceding too much ground in answering my question because you're admitting that prayer could be harassment. Prayer is not harassment, is it?
Oh, I'm certainly not admitting that. I'm saying that if there is harassment, it is prohibited already under the law. Yeah. What the PSPO does, it goes far further and it creates a censorship zone essentially around an abortion clinic that is entirely unnecessary, considering the way the law already stands, and is really quite obtrusive and oppressive of people like Father Sean and Isabel, who engage in perfectly reasonable and perfectly perfectly otherwise lawful activities.
And what I understand is that Father Sean wasn't actually praying about abortion at the time. He was praying about free speech, right?
Exactly, yes. So, I mean, you get to layers of absurdity with these censorship zones where actually praying about free speech within the censorship zone is criminalised by the censorship zone. So we're seeing some things that you see in places like Hong Kong and Moscow, where the authorities arrest people for holding blank pieces of paper, which is conceivably a crime as well within the censorship zone.
So why were the charges dropped?
Well, in this case, the Crown Prosecution Service said they didn't have sufficient evidence, but they kept open the option to bring the charges again. So in the letter they sent to Father Sean and Isabel, they allowed themselves, this is the Crown Prosecution Service, the right to bring the proceedings again. But Father Sean and Isabel both have a right under the law to have their day in court, to have the matter brought before a magistrate, to put the Crown Prosecution Service in their spot in this case, and to say whether or not they have evidence. And here they didn't. They decided not to pursue the case, and the judge quite rightly returned a not guilty verdict for both of them.
Right, thank you very much. We can't get Father Sean back, unfortunately, so we'll end the segment there, but thank you, Lorcan, so much for your contribution.
Thank you, Calvin.
And also, thank you to Mr. and Mrs. Price, your parents, for watching. Give them a bit of a shout out there. It's interesting that whenever we talk about this, we have technical glitches and all this kind of stuff, so please do pray for. There is a spiritual war going on here, and it's important that your prayers are sent out there. So thank you for Father Sean and Isabel Vaughan-Spruce. And that was the Catholic priest, Father Sean Goch, and barrister and legal counsel for ADF UK, Lorcan Price. To react to all that is author and broadcaster, my work wife, trouble herself, Rebecca Reed. Hello, Rebecca.
Hi, Calvin. How are you?
First of all, what are your general thoughts on everything you just heard?
I think that the people in this conversation have not been in a situation where they've been to an abortion clinic, either for an abortion or for any other kind of healthcare that's provided in the same building. And therefore, I'm not sure they're fully aware of how vulnerable you are in that moment and how intimidating all of these things can be. And I've seen a real variety of behaviour outside of clinics, from relatively calmly praying, holding a rosary, to actual aggression. And I think it's a much cleaner, simpler answer to say, just don't do it. As you said, prayer is not proximate. You can pray at home or anywhere else.
But even if you think that protesting should not be allowed around abortion clinics, which I would disagree with, even if you think that, surely you don't think prayer is protesting?
I don't think you're intellectually dishonest enough to pretend that you actually believe that people are standing directly facing an abortion clinic, demonstrably praying, and that is in no way an attempt to demonstrate to anybody entering the clinic that they are praying.
But you've just heard that these geographical areas are massive, so it's not just standing opposite the clinic. You could be standing miles away from the clinic and you're still within that censorship zone. So it's not a case of harassment, surely.
In none of these cases have they been. And also, again, whether it's 50 feet or why on earth wouldn't you be able to pray from anywhere else? What is the purpose of doing it directly in front of or within the exclusion zone, if not to protest it?
And I mean, and Isabel's not here today, but I know if she was here, she would say that it's not just about prayer. It's about the fact that you should be able to be there, not just to protest, to provide counsel, advice, literature that might help these women make a better decision, a different decision.
On abortion day, the last thing you need is somebody who is not in that position, who does not understand your decision, trying to give you a bloody leaflet. And also the misinformation in the pamphlets given out is extraordinary. The best thing that these people could be doing would be going and running a creche for free accessible childcare. That might actually help somebody be able to make a different decision. But also, a lot of the time, it's not even that you need to make a different decision. It's that you don't want to be pregnant, and you don't have to be pregnant. And if this isn't your religion, why on earth would you need to be bound by it?